All right, here we are into the draft for game number 2. Kiwoom DRX fans, if you're there, please just let's hope that you only just turned up, because the last game your team didn't. And so this time around, we're hoping that they do. As the camera person certainly did, as we were trying to see what Rich was up to. Will it need some more water? Hopefully that doesn't mean he just spilt it all over his keyboard, and then we need another peripheral issue. But that's probably not going to happen, as already we do see some differences in bans.
Yeah, so Karma, Varus, Pantheon, Jarvan. Some of the picks that were banned last time that are going to presumably get through, at least 2 of them.
Yep. Let's see what this final ban is going to be from Kiwoom DRX. It will be the Jarvan. So no J4 to be picked up.
Maybe if they're planning to first pick the Karma, they could go Karma Sivir, right?
True.
If they go Karma, then BNK FEARX go Varus. You go Karma Sivir into Varus, which is Sivir into Varus, really good. Jarvan's not there as a threat into the Sivir. That could be the angle they go for. Varus is going to get banned here, so don't have that to worry about.
No Ashe Seraphine to worry about either.
Yeah,
the first pick Karma feels pretty good.
Yeah, Karma and Pantheon are the big picks open and available that were banned last time. So I imagine BNK FEARX will prioritize the Pantheon themselves. And the question is kind of just what do you want to pair that up with? Something we haven't seen looked in that much, but is obviously very strong. Annie.
Yeah, true.
Like a Pantheon Annie would be pretty difficult to play into.
It would mean that you're not protecting your bottom lane very much. So they might be wanting to get something for Diable and Kellin that can play into a potential Karma Sivir or whatever the Karma lane is going to be. It's not Karma Ezreal. They don't need to worry about that one. But there are still plenty of things that you can make work alongside this champion. She is just very strong. We're having a bit of a zoom in on Kellin, so that is what we're thinking there. But we quickly switch over to Clear as he takes his Renekton.
I mean, this is just, if you want to come back for Rich, you slam Gnar right now.
Oh, yes, you do.
We know he can be great on the Gnar pick. Gnar into Renekton feels really good.
It's kind of awkward, though, isn't it? Because you need to pick up your AD carry to get the best thing for the Karma lane. And now they lock in the Gnar, but that means you can keep banning junglers and you get the Annie. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely trade-offs. Kiwoom DRX having to put the weight of that Gnar pick, having to secure it then. So it means that BNK FEARX may be feeling confident in Clay. It's like he can play Renekton into Gnar, he's fine with that. We have seen some Renektons have pressure, especially in the early levels, level 3.
What about Daystar's Renekton mid? Because we all know that Annie is a counterpick to Gnar. Zayas showed that yesterday. And if you have a look, he's 100% win rate on Annie top into Gnar.
You can't dispute that, actually. So, you know, we could see that come out. And if that was the trap, if that was the baited trap, then very effective.
Absolutely nailed it. Nautilus is going to be taken away. This has been a pretty popular one into a lot of these range supports. We do see it banned away quite a lot, actually, in our second round of bans. So not going to be seeing that. I imagine Diable and Kellin have got something cooked up. I think they're ready to try something.
The thing is, with an Annie Pantheon, you're already planning to put your pressure down towards bot lane. You're already thinking, hey, we can kill Caitlyn Karma very easily. We can set up, we can gank, we can make plays happen. It just comes down to having a support who can maybe facilitate and follow up on that and can do his best to survive the lane. So we'll see what they put together in that regard. No matter what, in the isolated 2v2, you're probably not going to have the most fun.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to find something that's going to have a ton of fun without really warping your composition in a way you don't want.
Well, they might just go Lucian Nami. But instead, the Kalista Renata. So I was thinking that maybe they'd look for a Kalista Renata angle, but then I thought it would be not very good. Diable's grinning, though. And so maybe it's not going to be Renata. Maybe it'll be Kalista something else. Just don't think Renata.
And this is the last time we've seen Kalista plus not Renata.
It's been a really long time. I think maybe the last time we saw it was like Kalista Ashe, which was like years ago. The Kalista will be locked in, though, and it is Kellin, so he's likely to just lock in Renata anyway. And so maybe it's what you were talking about. You know, it's about facilitating ganks towards that bottom side. We know that Raptor will be able to get there as quickly as he would like. But I'm very worried about the 2v2.
Yeah, the 2v2, not amazing, but the skirmishes, BNK FEARX is going to be doing fantastic. The 3v3, even the 4v4, anything towards spot side of the map, when you get stuck in the river, you know, you talked about them fighting over those skull crabs.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to win those fights over those skull crabs. Handily.
Well, let's see whether that is what they're going to go for, is Mundo.
Mundo.
Meldo. Well, that's going to be the choice here.
So, I'm not a huge fan. I don't think Mel performs amazingly into what like, there's some champions, Mel just is like, okay, I'm phenomenal here, I really shut it down. I guess part of the theory is Mel into Renata, which that makes sense.
Yeah.
But everything else, I don't think she does fantastically into. She will have a decent lane into Annie, that is one thing for sure. But the Mundo, especially when you know Pantheon is going to be trying to shut down your bot lane.
Oh, it's Kalista Soraka.
I like this way more.
He locks in the bananas.
Soraka is a really good matchup into Karma because if you trade Q for Q, the Soraka wins.
Yeah.
Not only do you do damage back, which is a bit less than Karma, but you get the healing in return. And you can just out-sustain the Karma's damage. That being said, if you do miss your Qs, if Karma's dodging them, can be a little tricky, but it's a much better matchup than the Kalista Renata.
It does put a huge target on Kellin's back as well, because, I mean, the wish, the fact that you can be an actual ambulance for your teammates is a huge thing. But the problem is, everyone's a massive target.
But you have the safety net of the Kalista, who can grab you and pull you in. The extra global pressure of the ult as well, on top of the Pantheon already. I think the Soraka was a much better choice than the Renata here for their composition. And I'm glad this is the time. I asked when was the last time we saw Kalista not with Renata? Well, we can reset that today.
Yeah. And it looks like it might actually work out here. A masterstroke in the draft here for BNK FEARX moving into game number 2. I don't know whether this is a more or less inspiring draft out of KRX, but I also think that wait, is he decided he's not going to study. Maybe that's what it was. There are a lot of fans who skipped study.
Yeah, we saw one.
That's what he said. And okay, well, I'll read it out once we get the translation in. But I'm really glad that we've kept up with this story. Let's get on to the Rift Tiff game number 2. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't have the translation for you. They just gave up, so never mind. I'm just going to assume that he's decided that via peer pressure, he is also not going to study, because everyone else here is also not studying. And I can confirm I am not studying either.
If they have one of those grade curves, then if no one studies...
Exactly! Even playing field.
Yeah.
And that's why it's difficult here in Korea and everything's so competitive in the educational space, because people do study.
Yeah.
Whereas where I'm from, I mean, you'd be in the minority. At least that's the way I felt while I was busy in the majority. Okay, Clear and Rich going at it here, but I imagine Rich is going to feel a bunch better in this matchup. Maybe not straight away, as you can feel a little susceptible.
I mean,
and Clear is kind of on a tear.
Level 3. Level 2 is sometimes where the Renekton has a bit more pressure. But there, that was the level 1. Tanking the minions, just rolling on him, stacking Conqueror. Very aggressive from Clear.
Diable is starting early and immediately has to get healed, uses his barrier, and at least Kellin has ambulance mode activated.
Doesn't have level 2 yet, though, so can't actually heal.
Wait, this was all in preparation for the level 3 gank, as Andil, I think he smells it. That the Pantheon's making his way in. The flash on over as Kellin doesn't manage to get the snare down, but still LazyFeel taking so much damage. The flash forward, he gets the slow with the rend, and there is the spear to finish off first blood at 2 minutes.
So this is one of the concerns I had with the Mundo, is that you're into a Pantheon. And this bot lane is heavily swung by ganks. And it's just a no-brainer that Pantheon's going to come bot level 3. What would Mundo really be able to do in return? Not really a ganking jungler. And yes, he scales extremely well, but if this game is over by the time you've scaled up, you're going to be in a rough spot.
Yeah, this is not exactly the start that Kiwoom DRX were looking for, but still early days. And maybe off the back of Ucal getting this counter pick, right? I don't know whether it's necessarily a very clean counter pick, but at least if the stun's coming through on a Q, you can rebut it. Kellin, though, needing to be a little careful here as well. It will turn up. Diable going to get snared. Briefcase connects. As Diable doing his very best to get on out of here. A W might be available, but it's not quite going to come in time. And there it is. Briefcase to the back of the head, and that is the answer here from KRX. Very nicely done, because there's also a wave crashing, plates falling down, and all of these minions just going to the wayside.
Yeah, huge punish comes through. Diable without any summoners is very vulnerable, and I was like, I'm not sure what a Mundo can do early, not exactly a ganking jungler. Well, VicLa finds a way to make himself useful and puts this Kalista behind.
Very nicely done. Clear also going to interrupt Rich's back here at the same time. Neither top laner using their teleports just yet, as Daystar, nice little avoidance. Doesn't get snared up or anything like that. Ucal still having a pretty good time here in this lane. Diable will finally make his way back now. No culls to be collected for either of our bottom lane champions. There's just long swords aplenty. LazyFeel probably wanted to go for a bit of a cheater recall at some point soon, wanting to get a few extra items, as Diable taking lots of damage here. Man, kind of snared up forever, as they do manage to get that combo of the W. But Raptor, he is back again, and LazyFeel, he knows that he is just dead. Another kill over to the Pantheon, and I just feel like they can do this all day.
Yeah, on repeat. Very easy to do, and I expect this won't be the last time. Hard as well for Kiwoom DRX's bot lane to play safe in the matchup, because you kind of have to put the pressure down. You have to be threatening, hitting these skill shots. If you play defensive, you are just going to get bullied out.
Well, there is the wave crashing in, so Andil not going to be able to protect that one. And it will be another base collected here for Diable. We'll see how close he gets to his Berserker's Greaves. The longsword going to be putting him a little bit further behind on that front. But it is about a 300 gold lead as the dust settles. So not end of the world. It's still a bit of a rough time. And LazyFeel still has a slight advantage as far as money. So that is certainly good news here for Kiwoom DRX.
Yeah,
I mean, man, that snap trap did a whole bunch of work.
So much farm was denied, I think, was the big thing that really put Diable behind in this matchup. But yeah, if this keeps happening, not going to feel great.
Well, this also doesn't feel all that great as Andil's rotating up. Flash away here as Daystar avoids the Q very nicely. You can see Tibbers getting amongst it. Another stun actually connects as Ucal needs to be really careful. Tibbers is angry. Tibbers will go down though. Turret is actually going to secure the kill, so unfortunately no 50 gold over to Ucal. And as we zoom out, the Drake is still being taken here by BNK FEARX, and with no Mel able to be involved, that should be just going on over their way. And Clear actually teleporting in to the dragon fight. So Rich up there towards the top side with a bit of free time.
Yeah, so Rich having some low time, which is nice for him. Got the call on pocket to scale up, but Dragon secured by BNK FEARX after a good AD start, especially as it's an Ocean Dragon. Bit of extra sustain in lane, and it means no Ocean Soul. Also, I mean, this is honestly my issue a bit with the Mel this game, is even though the lane is good into the Annie, you can just drop Tibbers on a head, which is an action you can really spell reflect.
We were talking about the rebuttability of Tibbers, and it's kind of like the predictability of this game is predicting exactly when to press it there. It is largely instant, as we know.
Yeah, and also if you can just kind of like get into their face and just hold it.
Yep, and then they press the button and then look a little silly.
And then they feel worse than if they'd just not pressed it and gotten stunned and then had it for the follow-up.
Yeah.
Which is actually what happened there in that trade in the mid lane before.
Well, let's keep tabs on it as Kellin and Diable here back to even as far as farm is concerned, but you can see LazyFeel not feeling as worried about dying twice here in this lane to these Pantheon gangs.
Yeah, now Pantheon has ult as well though. So
he is also doing his bottom lane camps, which might mean that he is just going to kill them. He's on the Krugs right now, might finish that off before he decides to head on over here with that Grand Starfall. But there is a Mundo in the area as well. Ucal going to get a bear dropped on him. That was the rebuttal used a little early this time. And yeah, Daystar is just having a pretty good time.
Yeah, the Tibbers really just shakes this matchup up and makes it so difficult for the Mel. And that's just the Annie style. You just drop Tibbers on your lane opponent repeatedly. You can see Raptor even ulted in there, forced the flash from Ucal.
Oh, yeah.
And managed to pick up a plate. So, honestly, I think that's pretty okay for Kiwoom DRX. You get Raptor's ult down, Ucal loses flash, which isn't ideal, but this frees up LazyFeel and Andil to actually be able to play the bot lane 2v2 without the looming threat of the Pantheon flying in.
Well, now you've got a potential gank angle here as VicLa flash briefcases over onto Daystar, who is just dead. Man, that was gorgeous setup here from the KRX jungler. There is Raptor doing some grubs here, as I don't think VicLa really knows what's going on, but still. That is KRX moving up to a pretty sizable gold advantage here at this stage of the game, despite the fact that they haven't been able to get any of these objectives. How to find more angles, certainly good here as Grand Starfall from Raptor does come in. They get the flash out of Ucal, like you were talking about before, and the 50 gold goes his way.
It's crazy this was the strategy, it's just whipped. Just flash, briefcase, set up the route from the Mel, and there you go. That's all you needed to do.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
I tell you what, it's pretty annoying playing Annie into the Mundo as well if you have stun up. Because you really want to use the stun to stun someone, but if the Mundo is the only thing that you can hit, and then your only form of CC is then eaten by his passive, it's quite annoying. As Clear is going to pop the Dominus and look to try and lock down this Gnar. Over goes Raptor as well, but the hop, skip, and a jump is able to get Rich out of there. And Raptor without turret aggro for at least a while, then decides to take a shot for fun and then make it interesting. Still doesn't go down.
Yeah, a little bit low in the health department there. Raptor playing with fire there. Just didn't quite have the damage to cut through the Gnar. 100-0 from full HP under the tower. So playing a dangerous game, but they will
Oh, just barely. Makes
that looks
way out.
so close.
Kellin didn't have vision. As you saw, there was a control ward for the enemy team in that Dragon Pit, so pretty cute attempt. We do have the scope picked up here for LazyFeel. First item feels pretty good. Diable, of course, had to take a bit of a detour towards those boots too, so incredibly good on the Kalista before he does get that Blade of the Ruin King online. Ucal moves up, grabs another plate, and Daystar's been pretty good at, you know, dodging abilities in lane and things like this, but you can see Ucal with a couple of waves in advantage. Being able to get that kill, certainly a huge deal here. So,
yeah,
right now, Kiwoom DRX with a fair bit of control, despite not having those objectives like we were talking about before. Maybe in 33 seconds' time, they're going to be able to lock themselves down an Infernal Drake.
If you look at the map, you can see around the river they have a good amount of vision, but also these super deep wards, way beyond BNK FEARX ward line.
Is crazy.
So when you look at BNK FEARX, you see Kellin just walk in sweeping. Those wards are so deep, you're not even thinking about sweeping there. And it means that Rich, who has TP, is potentially going to be able to get right behind them as a backline threat. Oh, ult coming in.
Yeah, Grand Starfall comes on over as there is the flash. Decent rebuttal there at the same time, but Ucal able to walk it off. Now VicLa's making his way in. This 2v2 could be a problem as Kellin able to be here to at least heal up Raptor. And they take down Tibbers yet again.
And this is so good for Kiwoom DRX because Ucal has TP. So him being low health is completely meaningless. You can just back off, recall, TP back in, and be fine. And burning the flash Tibbers before the fight for this dragon even starts is a really rough position for BNK FEARX to be in. I think with that down, your chances of getting a successful fight here drop massively.
Yeah, really nicely done here for KRX.
Ucal should be looking to recall though.
Well, he's going to get some vision first before he does press that B button. Raptor and Kellin moving on over here. It looks like they might be giving up this dragon. Does feel like they don't have the tempo vibes to get it for themselves. Teleport does come in as there's a flash out from Rich, actually. Wanting to get underneath his turret, but the Drake is going to be secured, one apiece, and it's a Chemtech. Aux, I saw you. You are concentrating on the map.
You know what?
But it still just gets through.
They switched to top lane for a second, and it just catches me off guard.
Probably what it was. Well, Fate's Call does come on down here. Flash out from LazyFeel to avoid the knock-up as Raptor moving on in. Andil taking a fair bit of damage as now VicLa comes on over. It's the flash forward to get on top, and in comes Clear out of nowhere. Flash does come forward, but VicLa is still going to be cut down. And Clear's like, I really want that POM, guys. And I think that play may have helped him earn it.
Great TP flank comes in. You know, BNK FEARX immediately... Oh, Andil, you are in trouble.
Yes. It depends what his goals are. If they are using his flash in order to escape, nailed it. Ucal going to rotate on in, though, as Raptor is underneath an enemy turret, does get snared up, and he is very much going to die. as he'll pick up turret aggro and just get exploded. So Ucal is able to get one out on the back end, but still decent trade regardless for BNK FEARX.
Yeah, a bit costly in the top lane matchup in terms of Rich getting those plates, but Clear was already ahead before he TP'd down, so he's not feeling too bad about that. Diable gets his one-item spike, which feels great. This is one of the problems, though, with having, I mean, any range support, particularly Soraka. Throwing the Soraka in always feels a little bit crazy.
But if they then get a lot of damage down onto Diable, Kellin can run out really quickly.
There you go. And Clear here has been really patient with the stun. Gets right under tower, blocks up the Mundo, and then is able to disengage. And it just felt like the perfect flank angle. Honestly, Andil getting away, and the fact that they got Raptor back in return does neutralize that play a little bit, but still very good for BNK FEARX.
That's also a flash down for Andil as well, and the Karma is exceptionally killable when she's trying to get vision down. You were talking about deep wards. Well, that might be a thing of the past, as Andil is actually going to be rotating over right here. I'm not sure whether that was a good idea, but he did tether up Diable. Great avoidance of the Gnar ultimate here from Clear, just slices out of the way. Now Rich could be in trouble. Able to land a fair bit of damage though, as we can see in this mid lane. There is more fighting going on. Skirmish is kind of everywhere, as Rich was able to escape from the jaws of the crocodile.
I mean, I'm just kind of amazed. Andil positioned so aggressively and was just able to walk it off. But both teams so close at this point. And Chemtexol, generally the one that we like the least and generally doesn't have a ton of value.
Hang on a sec. This game's crazy for Chemtex.
That's what I was going to say. But this game is one where you have a lot of shielding and healing for the individual Chemtech dragons, and you have some champions who really will thrive with it. You know, I think Renekton, Mundo, the biggest.
Not to mention Soraka, who's just going to be healing up everyone.
Well, that's a downside, because they only get the benefit.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's true. You want to be under half health. But Kellin's going to be under half health, running around really fast, a little bit more durable.
Imagine if Diable goes to rend, and as he's about to rend, he gets healed above half and loses the extra damage.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's all right, because he'll never be at that point. He's going to be playing this game on a quarter health. We know that. It's Diable. That's how he plays the game. As Andil will be taking a bit of pierce damage there, but it looks like Clear should be able to take down this top outer turret. And man, this Renekton is kind of clobbering this Gnar matchup right now. So we're having a look at the gold. The damage is towards Rich.
Being ranged against melee, right?
Yeah, so that should be happening. But the fact that he's 600 gold ahead is just kind of insane.
Clear's having a day.
He is. This is the Clear we've wanted to see for so long after being, you know, touted as a bit of a prodigy in Challenger. Him and Thanatos, we were singing their praises. And Thanatos left us, but Clear wasn't able to find that level of success that we were expecting for him. Maybe now is the time to start it.
I mean, BNK FEARX definitely could do with it, with how their season's gone so far.
Yep. Diable just bouncing around the minion wave, wasn't actually going in aggressively there. Did catch Jonah Strong unawares for a moment. First items completed for our top laners. Rich is going to feel better in the matchup, I could imagine, as time goes on. But it always feels a little bit rough when the Renekton does start somewhat of a snowball. It's all right. Raptor really wants to kill someone. It's been a really long time since he's pressed his R button and flashed. And so he really does want to do that. And there's the R button. Let's see whether he follows that up with that immediate flash. And he does get stunned up. The wish comes down, though, and that's going to keep Diable alive. He gets taken down so incredibly low, but he's going to live because there's a Soraka on the map. They take out LazyFeel, but there goes the Annie as well. So 1 for 1 is not really what BNK FEARX were looking for here as they eat the honey fruit. And that is a lot of Diable's health bar sorted out once again. KRX want this, but there is a Mega Cone! The flash forward from Clear, he gets on top of Ucal, but cannot quite do enough as Andil gonna go down so incredibly low. The ulti from the Mel secures the Renekton though, and now Rich is looking to try and take down Diable. He cannot get over that wall, and it's a double for the Mel. They'll grab their second dragon, and Kiwoom DRX looking to make this a tied-up series.
Just a very messy approach from BNK FEARX, and we're hitting this point where the Mel is doing a ton of damage, the Mundo is going where he pleases. This was crazy. LazyFeel has flash, and they just throw the Soraka at him. And then they're chasing through while Mundo is just kind of doing a ton of damage to everyone, going by. Rich is ready with Mega, which means Daystar just dies. He's left as the last man in the wreckage. And then even though they have the Soraka healing up, it does take time, and there's still a lot of low health bars here to work through. So just not able to heal quick enough. They go over this engage, Kellin's flash into silence, but unfortunately the damage just isn't there. The Mundo is such a beefcake, even at this early stage, and if Diable can't start rending targets, then he's not getting the value.
마치 BDD가 된 것 같은 이 기분.
Nicely done, Ucal. And Ucal just said he feels like he became BDD. Of course, both of them are pretty important to KT just in general, just at different times. So pretty cute as Ucal now moving up to 4-0-2. And he is having a great game thus far. I feel like the Mels have really been the beneficiaries of other things happening, and then them being the ones to pick up a lot of the kills.
Yeah. I was also a little concerned because like Mel into Soraka, like popped the ultimate, but everyone had kind of been healed, so wasn't able to get the kill. But still doing a ton of damage there.
Yep.
Oh, that was
comes on over and steals it away. Willard decided he would not press smite, and that may have been an error.
He just thought Clear deserved it.
Yeah. And honestly, based on Clear's performance...
And Clear just ulted and forced Ucal's flash, so...
Huh.
Well, resources there.
Certainly good news, but it's a 3,000 gold lead regardless for Kiwoom DRX. And they might be able, to get more.
What I will say is a ton of that gold is on the Mel, and the Mel has no flash, and the Crocodile is here.
Clear, yeah, he doesn't have flash either. He does have slice and dice and does avoid the briefcase quite nicely. Spots the fact that there is a teleport coming in. Does have Raptor here to help him on the escape as Rich turns up with Mega, but is unable to actually get on top of the Crocodile. Slippery little reptile gets himself out of there.
Clear was just playing so aggressively and just manages to like slide out.
Yeah, how did he do that?
Well, he sliced and he diced.
Ah, that's what it was.
But yeah, pretty chaotic. BNK FEARX trying to leverage some advantages. They get the TP from Rich though, so that's a big boon.
Yeah.
Don't have to deal with that Gnar in the side lane, who has overtaken Clear and got some gold and a level advantage. Second item though comes in for Kalista though. This is the big spike. This is really where you're feeling good.
And it's Diable as well. I mean, he was just in the Mad Movie in a game that they lost with his play on Kalista. He can certainly make magic happen no matter what the game state. And right now, it is neither here nor there. You know, 2.5k is not the end of the world. That is also going to be diminished here as Clear takes down this bottom outer turret, although Rich might be able to get a bit of a defense happening. So the Crocodile unable to quite finish that one off. But still, a very relevant Croc in this game. And we've seen some of them not quite be able to boast that. So nicely done for Clear so far. But I think they're going to have to stay locked in because BNK FEARX's composition isn't exactly the most scaling. Soraka does certainly help out, and the brawling nature of the comp can certainly be augmented by a lot of that healing and things like that. But it does feel like the Mundo is going to become so problematic. LazyFeel's range will become an issue later on in the game as well. So I think they do need to keep their foot on the gas.
I think that's the thing. I've said thing like 3 times in that sentence. I think a major thing that I'm thinking of is that LazyFeel has been in a bit of a deficit with him being 0-4-0, and that's meant, you know, BNK FEARX, despite losing that fight, still feel okay, but eventually Caitlyn is just going to hit critical mass. It's inevitable, right? You're still getting gold even if you are behind. So I'm concerned about that point of the game. Mundo is really strong. Right now, really hard to cut through. It's kind of like the top side to just kind of bridge the gap until LazyFeel's strong enough to just carry on his own.
Well, let's see whether they can kill LazyFeel a 5th time, as they can. There's not really much of a chance there, as Fate's Call is looking for Andil at the same time. Diable, of course, is going to flash over the wall to pick up the double kill. Ucal doesn't have enough range, and they are not able to stop this Kalista from just tearing them apart. The bottom lane's now gone, and BNK FEARX are looking for a Baron.
I don't know why, but I saw him walk up the wall, and I just knew.
Oh, I mean, I know why. It's Diable. Obviously, that's what he's going to do.
It just, you know, I was like, for a moment, I was like, will he? And it just, yeah. Oh, they're going for the play.
Yeah, Raptor dives on in towards the mini Gnar. Down goes Rich. Ucal in a lot of trouble as well. And like dominoes, they fall. As Kiwoom DRX, they had a lead before. That is now gone. And the Baron is going to be picked up as well.
I think what's actually really obnoxious about BNK FEARX's composition is the point-and-click stuns into the silences.
Yep.
It feels so low counterplay The fact that like you get the extended silence into the root afterward, and this was a great setup that came in from BNK FEARX. The stun comes in, the flash silence that follows means that he's dead. He doesn't get to play the game, doesn't get to push his buttons. And then Diable, he was walking up the wall, I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course he will.
The only way he doesn't flash that is if he didn't have flash off cooldown.
And then you know he'd try and Q to hop over.
And you know he pressed F anyway.
Yeah. Here, again, it was a great turn onto them, just that decisiveness. I feel like BNK FEARX has kind of been lacking.
Yeah.
Since we saw them come back from first stand.
And I don't want to say that this is, you know, a game that is all over as well, because we know that they have been making some pretty weird mistakes, but a bear goes down into this mid lane. Andil taking a fair bit of damage, but you can see Daystar needs to be healed back up here from Kellin. But Kellin staying very safe. Does have his Ardent Sensor and his Moonstone. And this Soraka is really starting to get work done as far as healing everyone forever. Still, the Drake has been started here by VicLa, and Grand Starfall is going to bring Raptor into this mid lane. They don't care about dragons right now, but there is a trap that goes down, and Raptor does need to be a little bit careful there, but he's got Kellin, so maybe he doesn't, as the Gnar is going to push back Kellin and Diable. Diable going to use that as an engage opportunity, though, as he gets out of the way of the Mel, and Rich gets stunned up. Clear looking for an angle. Oh my goodness, look at these health bars. Fantastic ward there from Andil. Spots him out, though, on his approach. The Drake is still up. That is going to be a nice snare onto Diable, but Kellin's still alive, guys. That means that everyone is able to be healed back up again, and DRX are not as lucky, so they will have to back away. Raptor going to be able to tank that one. The wish comes out here from Kellin, was holding on to that the entire time, and they will be able to grab their second Drake of the game. And Mikhails comes in for Andil. That is a pretty important buy.
Just feels like in that passage of play, because it was slow, because there was so much time for Kellin to get value in the Soraka, you could see it just started to get less and less favorable for Kiwoom DRX. When they got that Gnar flank in, Diable actually didn't have ultimate. So they could have turned on a Kellin, but the thing is, it's so hard to have precise timings on ultimates. We have that knowledge, you know, from the spectator point of view, but I think they didn't go on Kellin specifically because they assumed the Kalista ult would come in. And then Kellin being alive is just making these situations so hard to deal with. The wish as well, when they backed up to the dragon with low HP and he just pops the wish, it just kind of shows you how fake the HP bars actually were.
Yeah.
It's like dealing with the Nico and you see like the low HP and then it turns into actually, no, it's full HP. And it was a prank all along.
Yeah, I remember like when we had Soraka metas in the past, I'm going to have to hold that thought as Diable could be in a little bit of trouble, or all of Kiwoom DRX could be in trouble as they engage onto Diable there with the Soraka in support. Daystar towards the top side of the map, kind of unnoticed as he's wiping out plates, has Raptor there in tow. And I was going to make a point, but I just cannot remember what I was going to say. Oh yeah, I was talking about Soraka metas back in the day, and that was you always had to kill Soraka first. Every single time. Otherwise, it just feels like all the damage you're doing does nothing at all. And now that supports have so many more resources, it's augmented even further than if it was last year, for example. So I think Kellin is going to have to really start getting targeted here by Kiwoom DRX. And with that Fate's Call, it just makes it so difficult for them to do so.
I think that's just what really makes this combo work so well, is that, I mean, everyone kind of knows, you know, typically bot lane, one of the basic rules of bot lane, you target the AD carry.
Yep.
I know that's like one of those basic rules that aren't actually 100% true all the time, but it's like one of the beginner rules. It's like focus AD carry, except Soraka. Soraka's the exception. It's like, no, you have to focus the Soraka. You can't focus Soraka when you have that ultimate available to the Kalista. It just gives that that insane safety net. And what's crazy is that they haven't been using it in that way.
Nope.
They've been launching Kellin
engage Soraka.
Yeah, and still he's kind of been able to sort of circumvent all these dangers. Still unkilled in this game so far, which is a little bit nutty.
Yeah, 100% kill contribution as well. Obviously, it's pretty easy to do so, as you do have an ability that's just a global heal. So getting assists is pretty comfortable for the Soraka, but the fact that he hasn't died and he's been able to lock down a contribution on absolutely everything just means that BNK FEARX have been playing around it really nicely. 2,000 gold lead is now there, 2 minutes on the Drake, 1 minute on the Baron. And it's not exactly a ridiculous lead or anything like that, but I think that BNK FEARX have really gotten into the groove as far as this composition is concerned. VicLa hits a big spike, though. Having the Spirit Visage is going to go a long way for the Mundo.
I mean, VicLa's tanky, and also playing as these champions into the Mundo feels a bit uncomfortable because he has that CC immunity on the first CC, so if you try to follow it with the silence, you can kind of just run out. Kalista into Mundo is so hard to judge when you want to rend because you're stacking the spears and you're like, oh, but he's healed.
Yep.
Okay, how many do I need? And if you fail the rend, he's just never dying.
Nope.
So there is tricky aspects to that. Also, LazyFeel, he's got a little bit of a weird way about his build. He bought that slingshot and then it's just kind of holding on, just in his back pocket in case he wants to get up to any mischief.
I think he either got told by his teammates that maybe he needs armor penetration because he's a Caitlyn that's extraordinarily far behind, and so needs to move that up the item list as these levels do start coming in.
Maybe he just likes the green.
He just also might like slingshots, and he wants to get that David versus Goliath feel really locked in.
Yeah, that makes sense. If the Renekton jumps onto him, he's just relying on the ancient texts to get him through it.
Exactly. Yeah, BNK FEARX are relying on Void strategy as the Baron is going to get started up one more time. No vision here, but KRX is just going to wander on in. Mundo certainly a champion that's pretty good at doing that. Is clear on a bit of a flank angle. Yeah, Daystar moving in as well as Rich. Will be able to crush on in. Actually uses the ultimate immediately. Ace in the hole comes down and Kellin is looking to be thrown into KRX. There's a brilliant stun from Daystar and down comes the Pantheon looking for Ucal. He flashes away, but it's Clear that gets on top of him. Will is dead and BNK FEARX, they turn on a dime and wipe them out.
The craziest thing is they throw Kellin at the Mundo to proc the
Engage Soraka!
Engage Soraka is just how to do it, apparently. BNK FEARX get a massive team fight win. Only Rich still alive.
And Ucal head in hands there, and honestly, I could understand how he's feeling, right? He was 4-0-2, now 2-2, has done nothing but die over the last few minutes. And honestly, I don't think it's his fault or anything like that. I think the BNK FEARX have just been able to utilize this composition so beautifully in this mid to late game, as there is that silence combo. It has to be flashed out of there by Rich, who's doing his best to be frustrating to keep this game alive as Diable taking big bursts of damage. Kellin running out of health bar here, so it's more difficult to use that W. As a teleport flank angle from Ucal, looking for that opportunity. They look to now turn as Clear goes in, but he does get kited. Andil with that snare is able to lock down the Crocodile as Ucal might get the same treatment, and they have created an avenue of escape, which is through the Mel.
Yeah, able to circumvent. Oh, Diable's still healthy enough.
Yeah, wait, it's BNK FEARX, so obviously they are going to continue trying to fight them.
Diable has like 3 or 4 times the health of Daystar. He's like, no, you tank this. They're still, look, guys, you can retreat.
Yeah.
You're allowed to do that.
But I think maybe they don't want to give up soul point, perhaps? Oh, God, no.
Coming in. Tibbers is available.
Flanking, yeah. In comes a potential bear angle. As Daystar, I mean, he might get the Ucal treatment, but Diable is looking to try and get them into position. Raptor goes forward, as Kellin doesn't quite find the Q there. They do get some vision in this brush as Daystar was biding his time. Rich dives on top of him. There's the Gnar as they turn onto the Annie and take her down. The Wish doesn't do anything at all, as Clear has no teleport. He has respawned, but he will not be able to get here as the mid wave is going to get shoved in. And so Soul Point will be the prize here for Kiwoom DRX, and they're not out of this game just yet.
Yeah, I mean, just Rich finding this angle, saw the Annie on the flank with no flash, and just said, I need to shut this down, able to do so. The reliability of his Gnar coming in huge here. And now potentially looking towards Baron area. No, looks like they won't go for that. Won't want to risk it. We'll just clear up some of the waves outside the base. Third Dragon, you know, don't have soul yet, but getting some extra healing and shield power, definitely nice with that composition.
Yep.
But ultimately, still at a big deficit in this game, and losing that mid inhib, a pretty heavy blow.
It is. It is the easiest inhibitor to defend. If the Baron is what you're worried about. And so that certainly goes in their favor, but still not a fantastic thing. As Clear is going to shove this wave forward. KRX, they're back out onto the map, looking to try and get at least an avenue of vision towards this Baron pit.
Diable's so tanky as well. Like,
his Randuin is now completed.
And he has a Negatron Cloak for the Wit's End.
My goodness.
So he has so much resistances that the effective HP that Soraka gives is so valuable.
And now, the Baron is just going to get wiped out. Rich is moving on over. Willa is quite a ways away from the pit right now as Daystar, Ace in the hole does come down. Molten Shield is going to be there. As again, the engaged Soraka gets a double knock up into the silence. Clear on top of them. And the Caitlyn is just dead. He was standing next to Ucal as well, so he gets the same treatment. BNK FEARX, they just keep doing it.
Just throw the Soraka in. Absolute no hesitation.
He's a madman. And okay, there's a delicious snap trap there, but Willa, I don't think where he pleases is the Death Chamber, but Diable wants to send him there anyway.
He's so tanky, level 16
They have no
now.
heal cut. There is no grievous wounds on anyone on BNK, so I think the Mundo is not going to be their target.
I think the Nexus should probably be their target.
That looks like where they're going, as Rich doesn't have a health bar that he can really utilize anymore, as Willa does. He's going to try and do so as he has to flash out of the way. Nexus turret's falling down. Diable is just bouncing around the enemy base. They will be able to take out the structure. Rich is dead as well. Daystar collects that one. It's going to be one going over to Raptor, and then the Nexus will fall. And BNK FEARX, brilliant back-to-back team fights towards the end of that game, and they secure their 2-0 over Kiwoom DRX today.
A very convincing win, and I think, again, if you looked at the Week 1 performance of Kiwoom DRX, I